Hello, everyone, and welcome to Go-to-Market AI, the future of your go-to-market tech stack. I'm your host, Sarah McConnell. These days, it seems like every company has AI, but on this show, we want to go a level deeper so you can see firsthand how businesses are actually applying AI to solve your business challenges. We're going deep into the use cases and showing you the latest and greatest in AI technology. Today, I'm joined by Ike Shepardson, Solutions Engineer at Rattle. Ike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sarah. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, we are happy Rattle customers, so I'm excited to jump into this and show our viewers a little bit about Rattle and your AI functionality. But before we jump into the demo, Ike, can you just tell me a little bit about who Rattle is, what you do, and who are you helping?
Yeah, great question, and great to be talking to your listeners today. So Rattle is a revenue intelligence solution. So we solve a number of problems across the revenue stack for people in RevOps positions, sales leadership, and then even for individual contributors to help them to be more successful in their tools, but primarily to drive revenue signals down to the front line.
Amazing. So with that being said, I know everyone wants to see what that actually looks like in practice, so I'd love to jump into the demo and see Rattle in action.
Excellent. Well, so Rattle is what we call a system of intelligence, and here's what I mean by that. If you think about a typical sales tech stack, you have a number of really important tools, and these are all, best-in-class kinds of tools that I'm showing you here. And they all can send things like alerts into chat platforms like Slack or Teams, right? So when you have even one that's not listed here, like a 6sense intent data change, that could result in a Slack alert that gets sent out. But the problem that we're responding to is the fact that when you go into all of these tools, they're not really telling you what to do. Consider this for Salesforce. Whenever has Salesforce, when somebody logs in, tells you, here's what is most important for you to do next. Yep. Or for a revenue leader, when they use a great solution like Clary, we love Clary. When has Clary actually reached out and said, hey, this deal, the risk level has changed on this. Here's what needs to happen. Team, here's what play you need to run next. Here's the revenue play that needs to result of this. Or even something like Gong, again, best-in-class kind of conversational intelligence tool. When was the last time that Gong said in real time to a sales manager, hey, from what just happened on this call, it looks like this deal could be at risk. Or here's some coaching you might want to offer to the rep on that call. And so with Rattle, what our perspective is that there are little signals like what I just described all throughout your tech stack. Little things that if you had known about them and if you were able to respond to them in real time, you would be able to run your sales plays that much better. And so Rattle, with AI and with automation, we're a system of intelligence that pulls those signals out of those tools and then drives action inside of Slack or Teams. And so the three pillars of what we do, I'm going to describe to you today in a demo, are data hygiene. So, when we have things that are out of whack inside of your CRM environment, or issues that need to be taken care of, like that are more of keeping things up to date. Intelligence on your deals, helping to drive the right actions to close deals faster. And then, of course, just simple signals that give those kind of turn-by-turn directions in real time to your team. We do all this with AI, and I'll talk about AI as we go throughout the demo today. But I'm going to actually start with workflow intelligence. So, imagine a world in which I'm an account executive and I'm managing a book of business. I have some deals that I've started to forecast. Now, once you forecast a deal, this means that there's a number of responsibilities to the business. And typically this just means keeping Salesforce up to date, entering your call notes. But we're interested in much more than that here at Rattle. So let me just give you a specific example. I'm managing this deal here, and it's set to close here this week. We're filming this in the middle of March right now. So it's set to close very soon. Now, imagine that I just got off a call with the customer, and based on our conversation with the customer, I'm actually going to take this deal and I'm going to move it out of the quarter based on what the customer just told me. Now, that's a huge risk, and one that may not surface until the next time somebody looks at a Salesforce report. My manager and I have our one-on-one later in the week, let's say, but I've just pushed this out of the quarter. Huge risk. And there's a revenue signal there. But Salesforce is not telling me what to do about it. But Rattle is telling me what to do. In real time, I'll get a signal inside of Slack that says, hey, wait a minute. This was forecasted revenue. You had this forecasted in the commit category, but now you've pushed it out into the later quarter. That's a big risk. So what do you need to do? Well, in this case, you need to update the forecast category in the next step. Whatever the revenue play is, whatever the team wants to play with this, Rattle will ensure that the right kind of information is put back into the system. But it also drives the right action for me as the end user. So I think, oh, shoot, yeah, actually, this is down into most likely now. And oops, I forgot to enter my next step before call with legal, let's say. And what's great about this is that just with this simple user interface here, I'm able to push this back into Salesforce in real time. So as the end user, workflow intelligence just allows me to say, yep, okay, you can see it says commit right here. That's going to drop down into most likely. And my next step will even be updated as well. Again, just in real time, this is pushed back into Salesforce. And again, this is where you're driving the right kind of action from the team. But let's take this a step further. We had a deal that was committed for this quarter that's now in most likely for next quarter. Who else needs to know about that? Well, probably somebody on the leadership team, right? So Rattle will send a signal. In this case, I have it going to a channel in my demo environment, but this could go to the right person, the right team based on the size of this deal. Hey, we just saw this risk. That revenue signal was hidden inside Salesforce, but now we see it. And we want to make sure we can action on that and have the conversation with the account executive to drive this deal forward. And signals like this, they drive productivity and drive action. So a big result that we saw with the Mesmo team was that they had leads that would come in and a lead would sit stale. And, that would typically go into like a Salesforce report, into an email, but they were able to improve their lead response time by 75% just by driving that intelligent revenue signal. You got a new lead right into the Slack platform. So, yeah, go ahead.
That's very cool. And I will say we use Rattle. So I've seen this in multiple of our Slack channels for even the use case you just talked about, which is like me and our VP of demand gen. I really want to know, like, questions I'll ask myself all the time is, hey, when deals are deading out, like what stage are they in and what was the reasoning and like what category of reasoning? And so I know our ops team has used Rattle to send a lot of those signals into our systems because to your point of like, I'm on the marketing side, our sales team is using Rattle. There's a lot of different systems we're in every single day. And one of the ones that is constant is Slack. So being able to get that signal in Slack and for me to see, oh, okay, I'm starting to notice this trend of like, our ops are jetting out after stage 2. We're really struggling with this like stage 2 to stage 3 or stage 3 plus. And then we can build into those automations, like what's the next step, which for our marketing team is like, hey, we need to figure out how can we help here? Like, how can we progress deals? Like, what sort of assets do you need? What kind of events can we do? That type of stuff. So we've definitely used this and seen the benefit in our go-to-market team.
Well, that's great to hear. And I think for a lot of our customers, the thing that makes the biggest difference for them is when you apply just that little example of what I showed with a workflow to a whole deal. So think about like customer management, pipeline management. When you have large deals, a lot of companies, they'll create Slack channels for their largest deals. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. But what we found is that the best reps know exactly who to collaborate with. And the 90% who are below that top level, they need a lot of hand-holding. So what we use is, again, the power of automation and AI to drive the right signals into a channel that Rattle actually will govern. So we call these deal rooms. So with deal rooms and call intelligence, what we're doing is Rattle's creating and then governing a channel inside of Slack, and then driving insights and revenue plays into that channel. So I'll give you a concrete example here. You can see I have a deal room for just a kind of a pretend customer here. And what Rattle does in my case is it says, we want to create this deal room for anything over $100,000 when it gets to stage 2. And you can see just Steve and James are in the deal room at stage 2. No one else is there right now, but they're collaborating on this deal. And Rattle's going to do things like intelligently deliver the SDR notes, the link to the latest demo deck. Every company deals with making sure their enablement resources are up to date. Rattle will ensure that. Reminding them to log their calls and giving them their follow-up email template for how to contact the customer afterward. But then you can see here, I moved into stage 3, and this is a signal. Salesforce doesn't tell me to get Ryan involved in my deal, but Rattle tells me because that's part of the revenue play that we run here. And Rattle automatically adds him into the deal room, and we can collaborate on running a good POV. When we have a competitor show up, Rattle will see that, whether that's through the conversational intelligence recording or whether it's through a manual data point entry. Rattle will see that that opportunity to trap set the competition and deliver whatever resource or play the team wants to deliver there. And all the normal collaboration that happens in Slack, of course, happens here, but then other things can surface here as well. And I think you said this before, Sarah. Let's say it's been in stage 4 for too long. Well, again, that's a big risk. Whatever that too long amount of time period is, Rattle can say, okay, well, maybe you just forgot to update the close date, or you forgot to update the stage, let's say. That's fine. But also we'll say, here's the enablement resource that you need. But think about this now applied to all of your calls. So I'm just thinking of being the sales manager here. A sales manager, they have 5 to 10 reps who are on, let's say, anywhere from 20 to 40 active opportunities at any given time. That means a number of calls every week. It's impossible to go and listen through all of those. And if you think about that, if you're a sales manager, you have to go into your conversational intelligence tools to even get insights on what happened in those calls. Well, what Rattle's doing is it will surface the correct risks and opportunities at the right time with AI. So in this case right here, I have an AI prompt that says, hey, this call happened, and here's what was discussed. Here's the meeting minutes, and you can go straight to the snippet inside of the conversational intelligence tool. But for the end user, here's some risks that surfaced as well. You can see they need to do a little bit better into identifying specific pain points. And this is just using AI to look for specific insights and revenue plays on this. They need to make sure that they're not just telling about how we can solve their problem, they're really showing it, right? Whatever those kinds of coaching moments are, Rattle's delivering those automatically. And so now when the manager comes into the deal room, he or she can see, oh my gosh, yeah, I want to help them to work on multi-threading. This is what I want to focus on. They've got the other feedback, but I want to focus on helping them with this one thing. And then for the end user, this is great too, because Rattle's suggesting for them, hey, here's what we heard on the AI for the next step that the customer mentioned. Here's the metrics that they mentioned. Do you want to write these back into Salesforce? This, by the way, Sarah, is how we help people to really drive Medic adoption or spiced adoption, whatever their methodology is. This is a huge use case for Rattle. It's just driving that information capture, but then intelligently giving the end user the opportunity to push that back into the system of record. More than that, too, Rattle will actually even generate a follow-up email based on the conversation. Again, using AI. Just a simple link to a follow-up email takes them into Google. They can track all that there. And then again, whenever they're working on things, they need some help. Rattle will create a case for them inside of Slack that can be managed, and then all the important questions and conversations about managing that case can get resolved right here in the deal room.
This is really cool. I think I really love, especially the AI use case for giving a summary of what the call was and like the next steps and like the coaching part of it, because I think about as sales teams get larger and larger and every rep is different. Like I think AI is such a good use case when it takes out a little bit of that like human element, if that makes sense, where like your AEs, everyone's different. So what they think the next steps are might be vastly different than what another AE thinks the next steps are. And we see that a lot when we go into like forecast calls where some reps are like very hesitant to put into commit, but other reps are really like excited to put stuff into commit that then falls out from the quarter. And I think whenever something like Rattle that has AI to help sales managers take out sort of that human element and say, okay, generally speaking, like how do we feel like how does the AI think that call went? What does it think the next steps are? It kind of takes out that variable of like their reps either being too excited about something or not excited enough about something. I think that is so interesting. And I have to imagine it's just saves sales managers so much time. I can't imagine going into your conversational tool there and having to listen to everything and try to pull out those nuggets. Being able to just see it in a deal room will just make your one-on-one with that person so much more efficient and impactful, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's the trick, right? Is that, again, these signals exist out there. Conversational intelligence tools, they can tell you, here's what happened, here's the risk, here's a question that you might want to ask. But like you mentioned, Sarah, I can't imagine having to go there for every little thing. Yeah. And imagine the context switching that happens there. Again, the deal room is we're pulling those signals in real time and surfacing them for everybody who's working on this deal, not waiting for somebody to happen to log into a solution and hope that they find what they're looking for there.
Totally.
Well, and I'll just tell a little bit of a story about this too. I mean, we saw this with Qualified. They had real bottlenecks in their deals, but had real difficulty just addressing those in real time. And so using deal rooms, they were able to accelerate their deal cycle by 14% and increase win rates by 5%. Just by that little change in that pivot of, instead of having to go to each tool to find the signal, Rattle's pulling them all in and help them to win more.
I can say, obviously, for those of you listening, Kieran, that was on that slide, is our VP of RevOps. And when we signed on with Rattles, because we had this massive project that we were working on, I was involved from a demand gen perspective, but Kieran was really owning it, which was like, we knew we wanted these conversion percentages from our stages to win deals, where we're like, hey, stage 1 to stage 2 should be at this percentage, and we should be progressing stage 2 to stage 3 at this percentage. You mentioned like bottlenecks, like why are we not hitting those numbers? Like all the other things that are happening in our systems, it seems like we should be. And I think Rattle really helped us start to pull out those insights to start to say like, okay, here's why we have these bottlenecks. And more importantly, it was like, what's the action from it? Like, how can marketing then support? How can sales enablement support so that we start to hit those numbers? And I remember going through this project and being able to see those numbers progress and our win rates, most importantly, start to improve. And it had a huge impact on the org just in general.
Absolutely. Well, the last example I'll show today is just is one about data hygiene. Now, you might be thinking, and your listeners, if they're smart, they're probably thinking about this, and of course they're intelligent. They're thinking this could get noisy, right? I'm in Slack. You're talking about all these alerts coming into Slack. Well, this is where we're actually decreasing the noise, and you see that with deal rooms a bit, right? Instead of one-off messages all over the place, there's a central place for kind of controlling the volume of Slack. Yeah. And Rattle will even archive the deal room if that deal goes to close lost too, so you don't have a million Slack channels. But think about like every time a close date is in the past, or every time a next step is blank, right? Well, what Rattle will do is, instead of just sending alert after alert for those kinds of things, we'll actually use something we call digest to bring those alerts into kind of a clean your room dashboard. And here's what this would look like. I mean, think about like, a lot of teams have some kind of clean your room dashboard in Salesforce, but it requires the rep to go there. It's not customizable, very hard to configure. Well, you can see in this example here, I got one alert for a number of opportunities where I have next step dates in the past, or no next steps, and close dates that are overdue. And this will just take me to a single pane of glass to look through everything that I need to look through and mitigate all of my hygiene issues in one place. So again, we call this digest. You can see it's highlighted for me, close dates that are in the past, next steps that are empty. And watch this. This is cool. It says I have 9 records here. As I bring these into compliance, Rattle will see that change in real time, and this record will disappear from view. And of course, it's because I've updated that record in Salesforce now. And this number decreases, and I can get down to inbox 0. So just a very simple way to ensure that everything that is hygiene related gets addressed immediately. And we saw a big impact over at Abnormal with this. They had a 40% improvement in Salesforce hygiene. There's always chasing down people for data. The RevOps was just constantly putting out fires, but they were able to actually change how RevOps functioned in their organization by making them more strategic and less about just trying to make Salesforce hygiene better.
Totally. The single alert, I feel like, is so beneficial, because there is like this weird fine line of when there's too many alerts, people start to tune them out. But the one alert, and then you can just go to one single place to update. I know data hygiene is difficult for every single go-to-market team. I don't think I've worked at a company where that hasn't been an issue, and everyone's like, no, it's got perfect data hygiene in our CRM. So anything that can help improve that. I know from a marketing perspective, we rely so heavily on data cleanliness in our CRM. So seeing this makes me excited from a marketing perspective, because the cleaner that is, the better our segmentation can be in our targeting. And there's just so many like trickle down impacts that it has on the organization. So
absolutely. Yeah, I was just talking to a CRO last week, and this is why RevOps leaders never hesitate to take us to a revenue officer, because they see the value here. And when I was talking to a CRO last week, and I said, what's the thing that you feel like you tell your reps the most? That it's like you feel like you're just constantly repeating yourself. The first thing that he led with was Salesforce hygiene. He said, you just got to keep Salesforce up to date. And I said, you need Rattle. He said, yep, that's why I'm here.
I can imagine our CRO said that on more than one occasion. So I buy it.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. So that's our demo. I know we want to talk about some other things too, but yeah, thanks so much for listening to a little bit about Rattle there.
Yeah, that was a fantastic demo. Thank you so much for taking us through that, Ike. Now, I would love to move into our Q&A section if you're ready.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So my first question for you is, how long has Rattle been building AI into your product?
Yeah, we really started focusing on building AI about a year and a half ago, and have had a number of features GA for a year now.
Amazing. And then is what you showed today in your demo, is that currently available for customers?
Yes, everything you saw today is GA.
Perfect. And then who are some of your customers at Rattle that are benefiting from this new AI functionality that you guys have been building?
Yeah, so we have great partnerships with organizations like Figma and Twilio, Docebo, RevOps teams that are really trying to drive the ball forward fast. Those are kind of some of our key customers, other than the ones that I mentioned in the deck, of course.
Yep, absolutely. And then what's next for Rattle's AI roadmap? Where are you guys going?
Oh, we're excited. We have a lot of stuff, and this is near term. Everything I'm telling you here is in the next couple of months and maybe even sooner. The first one is call signals. So meeting summaries based on call outcomes. Again, this could go into the deal room. It could go to the rep and their manager. It could be a signal that's just getting an SE up to date in prep for a demo. So call signals, those are coming really soon. Deal summaries to where on a scheduled cadence, or even when a revenue leader asks for it, AI can go and scrape all of the emails and conversational intelligence recordings, all of the next steps and fields inside of Salesforce, and give just a basic summary. Here's where we are with the deal. And then, of course, something that's coming, that's maybe just another month out, would be generating workflow ideas using Rattle's AI bot inside of Slack. So based on what we're seeing, we see a way for you to improve this metric in your business. And Rattle kind of proactively suggesting to the RevOps team, here's a way to make your business more successful.
It's amazing. You guys are working on a lot.
Yeah. Very busy product team, very productive product team.
And then my last question for you is, are there any other AI-powered products that your go-to-market team is currently using and loving that you want to give a shout out to?
Yes. Well, I mean, and this is probably like everybody else. Like, we love ChatGPT just for testing things from like an enablement and coaching perspective. So our head of enablement here is just a huge fan of trying to find insights using AI tools to look over a call script, let's say, and ask it specific questions about sales methodology, or about soft skills. These are the kinds of things that managers can do, and you can never replace a manager. But what we want to do is we want to make managers coaching that much easier. And so making the sales manager really just a hero, and which, of course, in turn makes RevOps a hero.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ike, thank you so much for joining Go-to-Market AI. It was fantastic to have you on the show. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.